Evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Saints Network podcast, and welcome to some pretty breaking news. If you guys have been following along with Saints news, if you're on social media, if you've been watching other podcasts, if you keep an eye on it or a finger on the pulse at all, then you will have learned that within the last hour, just over, Southampton have in fact parted ways with first team coach Will Still. He has been relieved of duties effective immediately. He's gone, they've sacked him. I'm going to be honest with you, I, about 3 hours ago, didn't really want to do the show. Wasn't really interested. Because, and what I said to my wife was, it's just the same show every week. It's the same. In fact, if anything, I would argue, having looked at yesterday's performance, which we will do for reference, it was just getting worse. Now, normally what we would do is we would dive into the show, we would then look at other club news, we would then say goodbye, you'd all be amazing, be 500 members, we'll all get naked, it'll be great. However, tonight's show format is going to be slightly different. We've been working away here for the last hour because things have happened quite quickly, things have changed, okay? And Ash's comprehensive show notes for the game yesterday, unfortunately, aren't really going to be used. The beauty of live journalism, Ash, I'm afraid. Things have changed. They've sacked the first team coach. And when I say I wasn't looking forward to do the show, I now am slightly happier about doing the show because we want to bring you this news live, obviously. Before we dive into it, if you haven't already, please make sure you smash all of those magical YouTube buttons for us. It helps us out greatly if you do hit that like button, which is free, and smash subscribe if you haven't already. And importantly, you can check that bell notification icon if you want to be notified whenever we go live in the future. Equally, if you become a member of the channel, get yourself in the Discord server, you also get notified whenever we go live as well. And if you do become a member, it supports us. This is currently a very much not-for-profit. In fact, we run this at a loss right now, this show. So if you become a member or you do things like Super Chat, it directly supports us. We're very, very grateful. Maybe one day we can at least break even. You're all amazing humans. I have noticed that there are people during the week that are signing up to members. Not millions yet, but you're amazing humans anyway. Thank you so much.
We appreciate every single one of you.
Which, honestly, it's impressive that we're getting that kind of support from people considering the current state of the football club. And actually, I want to say two other things. Firstly, the feedback from last week's episode has been duly noted. It is nice to know that people, in fact, appreciate the passion, calling a spade a spade. Mm-hmm. That is nice. But also, at the same time, and put a little apology out there to Aaron, who watches the show and works in a space where the general public can hear whilst he's watching the show, and apparently this week had to turn it off because of last week's episode.
I blame you for that.
I cannot promise this one's going to be any better, Aaron, I'll be honest with you. However, I'm slightly calmer now because, one, it's not yesterday, and two, because there's been some news. Now, let's dive into it. They've sacked Will Still.
I have the statement in front of me.
Please read it to us, Ash.
It is very, very short considering what has happened. It is Southampton Football Club can confirm that we have this evening parted ways with men's first team manager Will Still, Ruben Martinez, Clement Lemaitre, wherever you say it, and Carl Martin have also left their positions at the club. Interesting, Carl Martin had been here since the Hasenhüttl days, so he's obviously gone as well. Group Technical Director Johannes Spors. Will is a great person who gave everything to try and improve performance and results. Ultimately, that process has taken longer than any of us would have liked. By making a change now, we believe it gives us the best chance of turning things around this season and climbing back up the league table. I would like to thank Will, Ruben, Clement and Carl for their efforts and wish them well for the future. Men's under-21 head coach Tonda Eckert will take charge of the team on an interim basis.
And the statement was made by the club, but specifically was made by
Johannes Spors,
who appointed Will Still in the first instance.
Yes.
Now, there's more on Will on Johannes Spors to come. Let's focus on Will to start with. Now, I'm a person who, when the announcement was made about Will, genuinely felt quite excited by the appointment and thought it was quite a positive move by the club in general. I think that I like the way he talked. He sounded good as an appointment. I like the type of football that he says he likes to play. There's a theme, however, with that statement that's going on at the moment that's starting to really frustrate me. I thought he spoke well with the press. I liked the way he came across in general. I saw some videos where he talked through his previous tactics. I saw some videos of him coaching teams. I was like, maybe this is the kind of guy we need, considering last season. However, that has not been the case. Now, if you would have asked me a month ago, do I want Will Still to be relieved of his position, I was still pro-Will, if I'm honest with you. And I'll hold my hands up. My opinion, my mood around this particular manager has changed actually quite dramatically in the last 4 weeks. Now, I'm not a person typically who likes to just point fingers at the manager all the time. And actually, one of the things I want to get on record right now is I don't think it can be solely placed at the feet of Will as to why we are in the position we are in. I think the problems we have, unfortunately, are multifaceted, and I don't think we're going to solve it by constantly keeping the merry-go-round of managers spinning, right? Legitimately don't think that is, in fact, the way we should solve this problem. However, because of the world of football, the easiest change to make normally is, in fact, the manager. Now, I think Will is a person who, at the moment, I'm glad is sacked, but I also feel quite sorry for.
I think he still has a bright future in the game. I just feel that this job was too soon for him.
So I think he's out of his depth.
Yes.
I think he's out of his depth in the Championship. I think the Championship actually is a league that would surprise a lot of managers. However, what was he promised before he came in? What was he given in the transfer window? How much support has he had? So although Will's been sacked and he's now the fall guy for the club, and I'll be clear, right? My opinion of him has changed in the last 4 weeks. We've had a lot of talk. We've had a lot of talk about we're not doing this well and we're not doing that well and we should be doing this and we should be doing that and we need to have some hard conversations and we need to be told some hard truths and this needs to change and that needs to change. This has happened a lot over the last 4 weeks. In fact, after multiple games, we walked into Bristol City, followed by help me out, Blackburn Rovers, followed by Preston North End, and most of us would have been looking at 6 to 7 points, probably, maybe even 9, and we've come away with 0. And every single time he says, we're not doing this well, we're not doing that well, we're not doing something else well, nothing changes. So his coaching off pitch, so his coaching during the week essentially seems to be ineffectual. We need to change all these things, and then nothing changes, right?
Yep.
His in-game management, utterly ineffectual.
Woeful.
He's making substitutions where most of us are scratching our heads. His passion and desire isn't there. He's a statue on the side of the pitch. He doesn't seem to inspire anything at all. He certainly doesn't have the players. That being said, I think the players do legitimately need to take a long, hard look at themselves after yesterday.
More on that later.
Of course. But the reason why I don't think he's a particularly great manager at this point. I think he talks the talk, but he can't walk the walk. But he's been let down by what is quickly destroying this club, and that is, I think, the ownership and the board. I honestly, I like some of what Sports Republic have done with the fan zone and Level 1 and the Del Bar, but what is the point in any of that if you're not winning football matches?
They just need to fuck off. Simple as that. What if they've been in charge? They came in, and since then we've been okay. Wembley aside, we all loved Wembley. 100% fine. It was a great day. They just need to fuck off. Look, what if Dragon Solak came out and he said in the summer when he was with Alfie House and Adam Blackmore was there, and he said, we need to sign a number 10. We need to sign a striker. It's quite clear the number 10 we got wasn't the first choice. We couldn't get the first choice over the line for some reason. Okay, fine. They've been bought in Finn Azaz. They put all their eggs in the basket with Will Steele. They've made these, and I'll get on to
highest
Will
paid manager in the Championship, by the way.
Yeah, I'll get on to Will Steele in a minute because I think that a lot of the blame lies at his door also. But I think you're right in what you said that he's not been given the chance to do it. I mean, Johannes Spurs. This is. We said it before. We said it all. Everyone, all these guys that watch. It's over 100 people watching. We all watch football. The Championship will find out anyone. The Premier League will find out anyone very easy. The Championship will also find out someone. And the last 3 games, we knew what the result was going to be when the team lineup was announced yesterday, and it was 5 at the back.
So, and this is what frustrates me. This is why I do think Will does deserve to be sacked, because home needing a win to start to move us onto that upward trajectory against Preston North End, whose away record until they faced us has been woeful this season, and we start with a defensively minded 5 at the back lineup, which Will has also openly said in the past is not his preferred lineup. He prefers to play 4 at the back, right? It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. But you also have to look at the fact that what he's been given to work with. I mean, so I think Azaz is getting some stick at the moment, and I get it. He's not been playing well, but he's been out the team, in the team, out the team, in the team.
Been playing out of position for the last 2 games.
So I think that players need consistency. He's a proven player in the Championship. Fellows is a proven player in the Championship. What on earth was that? That screen went funny. Fellows is a proven player in the Championship, right? He can't get in the starting lineup.
And when he played right back.
He then gets brought on as a right winger yesterday, and he has a bit of a go at them, and he starts to look promising. He then gets moved to right back, right? The only 2 players who aren't proven at this level are Cienza and Yander, and they're the only two players who I think actually look like they're worth a fuck at the moment, quite honestly. So I think the players are embarrassing, but he has got a squad that can compete. That being said, it was stated in the summer, actually, that 3 positions we needed to strengthen. Centre-back, creative playmaker, striker. What do we get? Finn Azaz, Damien Downs, Joshua Kashi. That is embarrassingly bad for recruitment. That is a Spores issue. Spores is also the individual who hired Will Still.
That's Spores now getting found out by the Championship. Because he's probably gone, this guy looked decent, we'll give him a go, done. Azaz played yesterday, and he was playing out of position. He looked completely away with a fairies. He didn't look. A lot of them, obviously, we'll get onto the game later, didn't want to be there, but Will Still. There needs to be more. The statement from the club, in my opinion, and sorry guys if you don't agree. If you don't agree, let us know. The statement from the club, I find, is pathetic. In the next couple of days, they need to come out and face up. Spores,
but they won't face up.
No, they won't.
And Solak did say last summer that if he thinks that he's now taking the club in the wrong direction and things aren't working, he'll put the club up for sale. If he thinks he's negatively impacting, put the fucking club up for sale. Fuck off. Because when he took over, Ralph Hasenhüttl was in charge. It wasn't too long after the fact that Saints had played Inter Milan and beat them at the San Siro. Saints had been up some of their highest league positions.
5 years ago this week, we were top of the Premier League.
So 5 years. So and this is the thing, right? So you've said this thing that I've said this before. So I've spun the same rhetoric, right? I've said this before. A lot of fans have said this. Never forget that day at Wembley. Never forget beating Leeds in the playoff final. And it was a good day, granted. Arguably, a day we should have never had.
Yes.
Because they'd got us relegated. They've overseen a promotion. I will add that it was a 4th place finish and then a playoff final promotion. It wasn't the first or second. We've then overseen 2 relegations and countless records broken. In the last year and a half, I think we've seen 4 wins.
4 wins and 51 league games.
So we've beaten Everton. That's right, isn't it?
Yep. Everton, Ipswich, Wrexham, and Sheffield United.
None of those games I think we scored in the first half.
Scored in the first half against Ipswich.
Did we?
Joe Rebo.
Well,
the guy that can't get in the team now.
He needs to go. Solak needs to go. He needs to go because in my opinion, I said this before on the show, bringing in Johannes Spores, getting it right for this season was Sports Republic's last roll of the dice to try and gain any kind of grace and dignity back and get the fan base back on side. The fan base is clearly not on side now. The noise for Sport Republic out was whispering around. I think Sport Republic got a bit of a free pass last season because Premier League's hard. Yeah, but we were there 2 years ago, and before that we were a staple in the Premier League for a number of years. Like you said, 5 years ago we were in first place. Now, of course, we're Saints fans. We're not stupid. We were never going to stay in first place, but we were competing in that league. Right? And when I say competing in that league, I'm not saying I'm expecting to finish in the top floor, but you're not walking out every single week expecting to just get hammered. At the moment, we're walking into teams like Preston and Blackburn and going, we'll probably lose this. Where we have been 5 years ago to where we are now is an absolute monumental failure at that football club, which is now rotten top to bottom. That is further exacerbated by things like Nathan Wood's actions yesterday when he walked off the pitch. The attitude of the players is disgusting. The attitude of the club is disgusting. The attitude of the ownership is disgusting. And at the moment, we're in a place. I nearly put a message in the group chat today where I was like, you know what, on Saturday, don't buy me any beer. I don't want any money going into that club now at the moment. I don't. I'm not interested in paying £7.30 for a shit beer. Because at the moment, the owner's going, well, if I'm profitable, why do I care?
Well, this is the point, isn't it? And YouTube's doing the weird thing where they still haven't sorted it out. But Jamie said it's not Solak's fault. He spent the money and it's a team around him. The problem being, Jamie, is he's the one that's in charge of it all.
He's put the team around him.
He's put the people in place and he's trusted people with those decisions. I manage, you've managed. You become the fool guy if you don't make the right decisions at the right time. And at the moment, we're only going one direction.
This ownership does not know how to run a football club. Gostepe got relegated.
And then they got promoted again, yeah.
The French club,
Valenciennes,
relegated twice.
Yeah.
they're not good enough.
Oh, Cameron said it. There, look. Cameron said it. Yeah, they got relegated
Did he?
twice.
So I'm just seeing they are not a football managing club, a football managing business. They do not know how to manage a football club. It's very clear. It's very clear. And we continue to take gambles on new managers and young players, and it is not working. And at this rate, as it stands, unless something serious happens now with this dismissal of this manager, we're at real risk at the moment of being in a relegation fight.
We look devoid. But I said to you yesterday on the walk back from the ground, and we'll get on to the odds and stuff for new people in a minute. Who would anyone get the team playing better than what they did yesterday? And I firmly believe yes. I think that tactically Will still is fairly inept, and you said it yourself, his substitution was a disaster. He looked like a statue on the side. I think he showed yesterday, for those who were at the game, he showed like someone who knew the writing was on the wall. I think you could tell. Our dad pointed out his body language was...
He came out in the press and said that some players had to hear some hard truths and had to be some difficult conversations this week. If those conversations weren't, if you don't back your ideas up, I'm getting sacked, I'd be surprised. And those players did not back their ideas up. They were not interested. And what annoys me as well is it seems because I think it was probably the same with what's his name who came in after Russell Martin.
Even Juric?
I think it was the same with Juric as well. The players just refuse to play for him because they're all prima donnas. They all think they're better than they are. And I genuinely at the moment think that for the most part, and I will add for the most part because there are a couple of standouts. Let's talk about the good news right now. Leo Cienza, that's done. That's true though, right? At the moment, or maybe Caspiander. If the players are given that much power and nothing kind of happens in return, what a toxic place to be. We don't like that manager. We just don't play for him. Because at the moment, what I'm seeing in every game we play is a complete lack of any kind of passion, devotion, creativity, determination, energy. And in the meantime, what is the major difference? If you look at Preston, if you look at Blackburn, if you look at a couple of the other teams that we played recently where we've done quite badly against, right? Do they have better ability on the ball than us? No, they just don't. I'm sorry. When you've got fellows as Cienza, Yanda, Shea Charles, I know he's injured right now. When you've got players like that as a midfield, other teams don't have a better creative team or better skill on the ball. So what are they beating us in? Physicality, determination, passion, drive, effort. Yeah. That's where we're losing. And if we can get those players, those lazy sons of bitches that are currently playing for this club, to do those things, we do not sit where we sit in the league currently. And I think that maybe, just maybe, because Will still is what people keep labelling as a football manager, I think it's a bit harsh, I'll be honest. I think it's a bit harsh because he has managed other clubs to get to where he is now, but he's never played the game at a high level. And people will argue that players don't respect a man that hasn't played the game. As far as I'm concerned, and don't get me wrong, I come from a military background. If he's in fucking charge, then you do what he tells you to do. So then if he does get sacked, that is on him.
But this is the point. And obviously we're not going to get into the game just yet, but I've seen some comments come in, how do we get rid of him, etc. The only way you can guarantee...
Hi Aaron!
the only way you guarantee getting rid of them is by putting the club in administration, which Sheffield Wednesday fans have done, and we don't.
No one wants to do that.
No one wants to do that. But the problem is this is the point. So who when you look at that game yesterday, Ian's just said it there. Aggression. And aggression is the exact word. And we'll get onto the game, like I said, but every goal kick that was taken, we didn't win the header. Everything we just need. We know what's going to happen potentially with the next manager, and we'll get on to that in a second, but it'll probably be someone that we've never bloody heard of.
Well, so we are going to touch on the game chat, by the way, for reference, but I think this news at the moment is more important than the game. We're going to do 10 minutes on the game in essence, and actually a lot of what we're talking about in terms of Will and his management of the squad is relevant yesterday, and I think you can map most of this across to yesterday's game and realise that it's all sort of the same stuff, right? Will still said hard work outplayed talent, says Ian in the chat, and Ian's 100% right. That is what Will said, and that is what's happened. The question is, how are we not able to get these players, some of the highest paid players in the league, to put the work in? It's terrible. It's shocking. And it's not just us as well. This is happening. I'm watching a bit of a meltdown from that lot down the road. The Skates, they're having a similar issue.
Yeah.
And their leadership is destroyed. They're saying it's dreadful. And I feel, they're our rivals. I feel for them. It's not just the Skates. There's a few clubs. Look at Norwich with Liam Manning at the moment. having an absolute disastrous time.
How he's still in the job, I do not know.
How he's not been sacked before Will still, I don't know. But Will, I love the way he talked. But what I've come to realise over the last 2-3 weeks is it's just talk. And it's the same for the players. The only player I think who's said something who people can relate to and who has then kind of shown that on the pitch is Leo Cienza. And at the moment, after the interviews and the chats that he's had over the last week, I'd make that man my club captain in a heartbeat because of the way he talks.
Well, this is the point.
Because he has frequently said things like, we need to cut the bullshit and play some football. We need to, his words, we need to shut the fuck up and win some games. Leo Cienza's words.
And yesterday, he was the best player for us, but he wasn't even as good as we know he can be. But he was still, even in the last minute, he was running and getting the balls and trying to make things happen. He was the only one.
For me, he's more of a leader than anybody else as a little Brazilian playing in attack, which is shocking. Ultimately, that's shocking. That's not good, right? So we have a team of people who perhaps they all think they're better than they actually are.
Team of individuals.
It is a team of individuals.
We have a group of individuals, not a team.
But what gets me the most, right? And I don't understand this because it's been an issue for quite a while at the moment since I've been watching with my season ticket over the last couple of seasons. And I get it's more difficult in the Premier League, but we're not even doing the basics. We're not doing the basics. Some things that we sometimes saw under Russell Martin, but not as much as I'd like to see. We're not. There's just. And the basic, I think the reason is because the basic often requires effort. So I played football at a level. It wasn't high. I've never played football at a high level. And you were taught similar things all the time. One of the things was never pass it across your goal mouth, right? Because that's suicide. The other thing was if it's in the danger zone, just fucking get rid of it. But then when you go into attack, the words were simple, right? Make runs, create space, drag players, play the simple ball. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. Basic football is not rocket science and it wins games. And you do not need your players that arrive in Barcelona's, Real Madrid's and Man City's to win football games in the Championship. So having an incredibly creative player like Leo Cienza is great, but if the rest of the team isn't doing the basics, you are not going to win football matches. It's as simple as that. And what we're seeing frequently is players pick the ball up, drive forward sometimes a bit, look up, and they've got a team of statues looking at them like, go on then, what are you going to do? And we've got poor decision-making from top to bottom. We've got a left-back who's obsessed now with taking free kicks because he's scored a couple. Get him off the free kick. I mean, yesterday, I don't understand how he was given a high player rating. I think he was one of the worst players on the pitch yesterday, Ryan Manning.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think he realised he was playing in red and white for most of that game. Dreadful performance yesterday. Dreadful performance. It was a shock, and for Will, I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, for Will Steele, after he'd made that change against Blackburn, you remember that famous one, the end of Jack Stevens, to then start with 5 at the back again this week, I was like, I genuinely, I honestly mean this, chat. Maybe if you disagree with me, let us know in the chat right now. I think he deserves to be sacked. I don't think the players have done him any favours, and I think they've been embarrassing. I think the board is shocking, and I would like Sports Republic to fucking get out and just leave us alone and sell up the club to somebody else. Although I've said in the past, be careful what you wish for. I'm now starting to think who could be worse than this right now, honestly. But Will Steele, I think, I honestly believe this. My mind has changed in a month. I think he deserved to be fired. The amount of people I spoke to yesterday and said, tell me what our footballing identity is under Will Steele.
There isn't one, is there?
Tell me his style of play.
Who knows?
Exactly. Right?
We were told when he came in, 4-2-3-1 preferred formation, high press, high intensity.
We've not seen high press. We've definitely not seen high intensity.
And we've barely seen 4-2-3-1.
We've barely seen 4-2-3-1. And he definitely had the players available to do it yesterday. He absolutely did.
Like Alan said, there's no I in team, but there is in meat pie. Just remember that.
Yeah, there is. But there is an I in winners. No, I'm joking. So I see a team that goes in at half time, and I don't think at any point I've seen them come out looking like they've had a rocket up their backside. You saw that team on occasion, and I'm talking years ago now, when we early on started going to football, and you were pretty terrified of going in that changing room if Gordon Strachan was going to scream at you at half time because you'd been playing terribly. There was no fear from that team for the repercussions. What I also want to touch on, actually, is some of the players before we dive into who we'd like to see replace him and who we'd like to see come in and what the odds are at the moment. And I'll touch on some players, and I'll touch on some pretty disgusting behaviour, hence the thumbnail, and some utter cowardice as well. And I don't like cowardice. Leo Cienza in the week did an interview with Adam Blackmore. It's on the BBC Sounds app. Very interesting. I think listen to it. It's worth listening to. He says some things which I love, right? And he says, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing now, but he says, if you perform well, everyone who performs well takes the claps and they take the cheers. They love that moment, right? However, if you perform badly, I think it's just as important to stand in front of the fans and take the boos and grow as a person, right?
Grow some balls.
And I love that sentiment, genuinely. 30,000 people paying to watch that. So you take what they're going to give you, and if you've been shit, you take the abuse that's coming your way within reason, right? If that abuse gets personal, rude, racist in that regard, I've got no place for that, legitimately.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get told you've been fucking shit today, and you have, then take it, right? And I love that as a sentiment. So England international Taylor Harwood-Bellis, what does he do yesterday when the final whistle goes?
Fucks off.
He practically ran down that tunnel.
Yeah.
Coward. Absolute coward. For me, I'd drop him for that. I'd sweat. Honestly, I'd drop him. Cowardice. I don't like it. Does not show the kind of character we want around the club at the moment. Oh, the fans are booing at us because we've lost again at home to Preston. I'm going to run down the tunnel. Coward.
Another guy who yesterday, when he was misplacing passes, was still blaming other people. Next.
Could be worse. Nathan Wood walked off with Ryan Manning and decided to give abuse back to the fans. Calls them a wanker, one of them. Now, he did apologise today. Interestingly, half an hour before the announcement that Will had been sacked. I don't know why the club did it in this order or why they did it the way they did it. Clearly, it was all over social media yesterday. I think that this statement could have come out much sooner. I wonder if he was talking to the management team just before they talked to Will and then made the announcement. But he said, Southampton's media team have said, I would like to apologise to all the Saints FC supporters for my actions yesterday in our defeat to Preston. I'm regretful that I let my emotions get the better of me and I take full accountability for them. I will learn from this and will do my best to improve our performances on the pitch. Again, Woody, it's disappointing. You've been one of our better players this season in a defence that's quite leaky. He's looked quite solid. We've been quite positive about him. For me, in terms of centre-backs, he's been the first name on the team sheet, in my opinion, right? And then you've behaved like a bell end. And again, words mean nothing. We've heard a lot of words over the last 2 months from players. We need to stand up and be counted. We need to put more energy in. We need to fight harder. We need to get that win.
Well, I'm gonna carry on your charade of players actually, and I'm gonna bring one in. I know you're not expecting me to do this, but I'm gonna bring in Adam Armstrong.
Oh wait, did he play yesterday?
Apparently so.
Did he?
Yeah, apparently he was on the pitch.
Are you sure?
I thought he was absolutely dreadful, and he obviously came out, and obviously some of this is going to be almost outdated now because obviously Will Still has now lost his job. And to paraphrase him from some of its bits, we had honest conversations in the weekend, and this happens. We have to be better. No shit, Sherlock. And then he goes on to say, pressure shouldn't just be on the manager. We have to use our experience to get out of it. You should use your experience to not be in the position in the fucking first place.
Yesterday, he was a steaming pile of wank.
But he has been for a while.
But then at the same time...
But he scored a few goals.
I don't rate Adam Armstrong. This is not news, okay? This is not news. I said earlier in the season, when he started to put some goals in, that if he goes on a run and scores goals, I'll eat my hat. He was shit again yesterday. However, where I will give Armour a little bit of leeway is the service into him was fucking shocking. And we continue to play balls in that seem to be aimed at a target man. Will Still has basically said, we can't play my style of football without Ross Stewart. If you're pinning your fucking hopes in the Championship on Ross Stewart, you are going to get sacked. That's a fact. That's a fact. And if you're a good manager and a player like Ross Stewart, if one player gets injured, fucks all your plans and you can't win a game of football, you're a shit manager. You're a shit manager.
100%. 100%.
Barcelona, the best Barcelona team could win without Messi. Best Real Madrid could win without Cristiano Ronaldo. Two of the best players in the world in recent times.
Best Real Madrid didn't even have Cristiano Ronaldo.
Well,
controversial.
Granted. Okay, fair. But you see what I'm saying, though, right?
Yep.
If the best teams in the world will win without their best players. Good managers, because injuries happen, as do suspensions, as do thick and fast fixture list, and you have to rest people. Good managers can win games of football. If you're telling me that you can't win a game of football because you haven't got Ross fucking Stewart, the Loch Ness donkey, that you were gonna get yourself sacked. Unfortunately, that's just a fact, right? And I do think that Will, over the course of the last month or two, had started to run out of things to say, and I think he was honestly pissing in the wind.
I think he just ran out of ideas. Yesterday was clear. He just ran out of ideas.
I don't think he had any ideas. Nothing's changed. This is my point. Nothing has changed in the pitch all season. Nothing has changed. It's the same fucking shit week in, week out. It's the same low effort, low intensity, knock it around the buck, play a couple of shit Ryan Manning curvy balls into Armstrong that he never wins. A couple of players maybe run forward, but no one else creates any runs. And then our hottest take of yesterday, by the way, whoever says this can go fuck themselves, right? Oh, the crowd started getting negative and that's why we conceded. Fuck off. The crowd got negative because you were shit, right?
Yeah.
You conceded because you're shit. And if you're prepared to take 20, 30, 40, 50,000 pounds a week home, and a few boos means that you can't play a game, nah, not having that. Not having that. And your wages back then.
I would almost sit there and go, yeah, okay, maybe that would have had an effect. But second half, the crowd, the fucking fans got behind him.
Again.
And
again.
We had a little bit more intensity, but we only had 2 shots on target in the whole game yesterday. Obviously, we'll get onto the game in a minute.
Will we? I don't know if we will, actually.
Well, yeah, maybe not. But it's just, even then, we put Tom Fellows at right back and we're still passing the ball around the back.
So again, if we are touching on yesterday's game, this is part of my point, though, right? This is the thing. Half-time he makes changes, which is right, because Finazaz had been relatively ineffectual. In fact, we labelled him a passenger, essentially, right? And he comes off, and Fellows comes on. And he made another change. He took off words and stuff and things.
I'm looking, I've forgotten. He took off Ronnie Edwards and brought on Jay Robinson.
So he finally went to the 4-2-3-1 that apparently he likes to play. But because we hadn't started that way, we clearly probably hadn't trained that way all week. The players were a bit sort of all over the place, right? But Finazaz had in fact been a passenger. So he then puts Leo Cienza in behind Armour. He puts Jay Robinson on one wing and he puts Tom Fellows on the right wing. Finally, we've got Fellows on the wing. Brilliant. That, for me, is one of the only positive changes I've seen him make all season.
Yep.
Right? And the only reason why I say that is because he stopped playing 5 at the fucking back, okay? And then let's go on a bit. And we're still losing. We're still 1-0 down, right? And so he takes off Flynn Downs and puts on Damien Downs, right?
That was a downer.
So I was like, okay, so we're going to a 4-4-2, are we? And I think I like to take a helicopter view. I like to look back at the whole formation and what's going on the pitch. And I couldn't figure out who was playing where.
Jay Robinson was playing centre midfield.
So if I can't figure it out, they don't know where they're supposed to play, right? He then takes off another defender and he puts on Joe Rebo, right? And I think there's another change or two in there as well. He brings on Joe Rebo. And I'm like, so if you're bringing on Rebo anyway, when you took off Flynn Downs, why didn't you put fucking Aribo on who plays in central midfield? Because Aribo ended up playing at the back like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here. Baffling. So we ended up at the end with, I think, a group of people who just didn't know where they're supposed to be, right? And I think his management has been shit. But like I said to you at the start, I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
Because when you're set up to fail and you then fail and everyone says it's your fault you failed, no one will listen to you when you go, I was set up to fail. That's unfortunately the way the world is. And he has been set up to fail. They didn't buy him a decent 9. They haven't got a good striker in. Our 10 that they've purchased for him has so far not really proven himself at all. And I was a bit curious when Middlesbrough fans go, we've had your pants down there. Looks like they might have been true.
Yep.
And he wasn't bought a replacement centre-back, and we don't really have a goalkeeper. Whilst Aaron Ramsdale continues to sit on the bench at Newcastle after watching the howler that Pope let through earlier as well for Newcastle. And
he played midweek, he was all right.
And you got people like Bree playing amazing football out on loan. This club, man, honestly.
It's a joke.
Honestly.
It's a joke. As mentioned by Football Martin, shout out. Football Martin's in the chat, everybody.
Hey, Martin, how's it going,
If
dude?
you want your match day vlogs, go to him or Jimmy Cheese, who's also in the chat. Both of them do very good videos. But Martin said there, football club is a joke. And it's rotten from top to bottom.
It is
Absolute
rotten.
joke.
It is right. And I think my love for Will Still diminished significantly over the course of the last month. And I've said it repeatedly, I'll say it again. I think he deserved to be fired. I genuinely do. But I don't think just he deserved to be fired. I think the board is embarrassing. I think the ownership is shocking. I think the players, they've kept saying we take a long, hard look at themselves. I'd like them to actually fucking do it rather than going back to their big houses and their sports cars, not giving a shit. Because that's clearly what's going on at the moment. They don't care. They don't care, right? They don't care. We have, however, got odds already on new managers. Brilliant. Some of these are interesting choices, right? As Ash just said, Tonda Eckhart, who's in charge of the under-21s, has taken control of the first team in the interim. He interestingly has odds to hold that position, and he has reasonable odds to hold that position as well. Did you do some research on his background and what he's done before?
Yep. So he's 32 years age. So he's 32 years old. So he's younger than me and you.
A lot of people are younger than me now, mate, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm younger than you. Just remember that, everyone. I'm younger than him. So he's coached at Bayern and Leipzig before IB Leipzig. He was assistant manager at Genoa. He's also been involved in places like Barnsley before. He comes with a high pedigree, having taken teams to UEFA Champions League wins, etc., etc. I know you're going to do them at the end, but I think it's relevant that we have had a super chat already, which I think takes us perfectly into this segue, which is from Matt McManus. Thank you very much for the 5. And he says about who do we want to replace. Obviously, if we go through the odds, we can then go on to who do we want to replace.
No, so before I hit the odds, actually, you've got an idea as to who's available or managers are out there. What's interesting here is there's a list of people. Some of them are available, some of them are in work currently. And I do look at those people that are in work currently on reasonable odds and think, who wants to quit their current job to come to Saints? Anyway, if you could pick a single name out of the hat, a single person right now, and I want you to do the same. If you're feeling generous, stick it on a $1.99 super chat. If you're not feeling generous, just stick it in the chat. If you think we're shit, just put it in the chat, right? If you think we're good, put it on a postcard. Who do you want to take the job, and when do you want him to take the job?
The problem is, I'm thinking the romantic tale, but then I also think realistically. So if I said to you before, if you want someone to come in, galvanise the fan base, get people together, get someone who's going to be really behind him, then you'll mention people like Ralph Hasenhüttl.
The thing is, he got hounded out by fans, and I think there'll be a significant number of fans who will still say, no, I don't want him back.
If I could pick one out of the names that have been mentioned, and this is just my opinion, obviously, guys, let us know, I would like Liam Rosenior from Strasbourg.
Okay.
He's managed in the Championship before, but is he going to leave Strasbourg to come to us?
Probably not. Where's his odds?
20-1, I believe.
He was on here, I thought. Yeah, he is 20-1. Okay, cool. Let us know, chat. Right, so I think we need a no-nonsense man. I think we need someone who's going to come in and is going to be noisy, passionate, loud, demand a level of respect. And I think we need a Alex Ferguson, Gordon Strachan type individual right now because these players are fucking embarrassing. I don't know who that is. I think I look at maybe Lee Carsley perhaps, but what I don't want is him to put Taylor Harbour-Bellis in as club captain. I don't know if he's got that about him, if I'm honest with you.
I think Lee Carsley's still in charge of under 21s as well, isn't he?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I like the idea of Michael Carrick at the moment.
So Gartsy said Gareth Southgate, won't happen. Jimmy Cheese has said Tony Pulis, won't happen.
Why won't these two happen?
I think Southgate will be way too expensive for the money that he odds. Pulis type, as I would agree. Matty McManus says Gary O'Neill, no. And he'd lose one game with his Portsmouth connections, and fans will be on his back.
But that's the problem with Gary. Gary O'Neill's got too many connections, I think. I'm surprised he's 14-1 on the odds. I'll go through the odds in a minute, but he's got too many connections to the Skates. And what the thing is, so I watched this on Total Saints podcast earlier, and what they said, I think it was Steve said, and I agreed with him 100%, is that if you bring in Gary, because I don't want to claim this as mine, this is what Steve said on Total Saints podcast before we went live. He said that Gary O'Neill has no honeymoon periods, The second there's a loss, the fan will be on his back. And I agree with him because of his tie to Portsmouth. The problem, where I divert somewhat from what Steve was saying is, who's getting any kind of honeymoon period? So this is what I specifically said to you. When do you bring them in? Do you try and get them in before Sheffield Wednesday in a hope that that's a 2-yard putt? Sorry, Nick, if you're in the chat. In the hope that it's a 2-yard putt, because it isn't guaranteed the way we're playing right now. It isn't, right? Or do you wait till Sheffield Wednesday and you bring them in a 2-week gap that is the international break? When do you bring them in is important. Honestly, they're not coming in before Wednesday, are they?
Honestly, at the moment, I think you're going to confuse people. They're not coming in before we play QPR on Wednesday. They're not coming in before Wednesday on Saturday.
Yeah,
Jesus. Honestly, I think if you need to do it, you need to get them in before Sheffield Wednesday.
Really? Okay.
You need to work hard and get them in before Sheffield Wednesday. But then the problem comes, and this is the big if, a massive if at the moment. If we go to Loftus Road and win on Wednesday night, then another conversation takes place.
So that's interesting because what you're about to say is the odds sort of reflect that. So I'm on Sportscasting Bets. It's the one they normally kind of just take the best betting odds and put them in the list. So it's not comprehensive. Different betting sites will have different odds. I'm not betting on it. And if you are going to bet, please obviously be responsible, all that kind of good stuff that we always say around betting because it destroys lives. However, it is normally a good indicator of things that have happened and conversations that have taken place and where people's lists are. You'd like to think if Johannes Spors is going to try and show himself as not a complete charlatan, that he at least has a list of names in his mind, right? You'd like to think that at least. If he hasn't got a list of names in his mind at the point in which they've let him go tonight, then he should also fuck off and leave, quite frankly, because it's literally his job as sporting director, right? Anyway.
Technical director.
Technical director. However, there is a list of names and odds gives us some kind of indication as to who possibly might be up for the job in the future. Current favourite on this list, as I refresh, is Ralph Hasenhüttl at 7-2. I think a lot of this has come down to that nonsense of him being at Bristol City.
Yeah, because he's friends with one of the coaching staff from Bristol City.
We happen to be playing there. I don't think it's any more than that, but maybe, just maybe, because how he's available, it's possible. Me personally, I wasn't a Ralph out person. I'd take him back at this point. But because I don't think he'd put up with shit.
Okay, who's next?
Next is Michael Carrick at 5-1 currently.
Yeah, I think that's a solid shout.
Michael Carrick's a decent shout, I think.
He did well. He took Middlesbrough from, if memory serves correctly, he took Middlesbrough from a similar position up to 3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that in the playoffs.
He might even get a tune out of Finn Azaz.
Potentially, yes. He was there with Finn Azaz last year, I think. He might do. Look, that's an interesting one, but I think he's probably going to be one of the top names next.
Lee Carsley, 8-1.
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to look it up right now. Lee Carsley is an interesting one because I still think, or I thought he was in charge of England under-21s, and it would be a lot of money to get him out of his contract.
Well, this is the other thing we have to think about, chat, as well. A lot of people will be throwing some names about. You have to think about PSR. You have to think about how money works in football. We now have Will, who was signed on a 3-year deal. So he has over 2.5 years left on his deal. And we now have to currently, potentially, pay off the rest of his contract. Now, normally these professional contracts do have clauses in that when he gets another job, we stop paying him, normally. But at the moment, as it stands, we're going to have to pay him out, right? Which means when we look at another manager, we have to look at how much they're going to cost in wages, how much they're going to cost to dig out of their current position. One of the reasons why we're in this shithole that we're in is because on occasion in the past, we have refused to pay the money to dig people out of their club. And so we haven't ended up getting our first choices.
Lee Carsley still is in his position at England. I find that a bit of a left field one, so I don't think that's going to happen. Next.
Okay, next is... If this happens, I might shut the podcast down.
Go on.
Russell Martin, 8-1.
Never going to happen. Next.
So I like to think never going to happen, but...
It won't happen. It won't happen.
So I'm hearing, I think Alfie House has said he doesn't like the management in the club management doesn't like him. So I don't think that's going to happen. It's just because he's a free agent right now and he's been at Saints before.
Yeah.
So football's this weird game at the moment where lots of people that have been at a club then go back to a club. It could be worse. It could be Sheffield United. 9-1, so slightly longer odds than Russell Martin, is Brendan Rodgers right now.
I would take Brendan Rodgers, but I don't think we'll be able to afford him. I also don't think he'd be interested in coming there.
Even with what's happened with him at Celtic recently,
Because
Celtic have removed him and released a pretty damning statement about his attitude and his the way he's carried himself and the way he's talked about the club in general. They've basically said that he's trying to throw us under the bus. We've given him everything he's asked for.
I think we need to be realistic, and I'm going to come in here and there's a few others that have been mentioned as well. I see Daniel's there said throw the same money at Ten Hag. Let's be let's be realistic in who we're offering, because I've seen people. I know we've had Alan said at the start a bit of a joke he'd turn a Klopp. There have been people that have genuinely turned around and mentioned in group chats and stuff about going and getting Thomas Frank from Spurs and stuff like. Let's be fucking realistic here, guys. We're 21st in the Championship. We're not getting Ten Hag. We're not getting Thomas Frank. We're not getting people like this. I know Ten Hag's a free agent at the moment. He sees us calling, he'll flip in.
Ten Hag's a better shout than Thomas Frank, at least.
I mean, he's a better shout
because at least
than
he's
Thomas
not
Frank,
got a job right now.
but he ain't coming here, is he? Let's be honest. We need to be realistic. I don't think Brendan Rodgers is realistic. That's my opinion.
I don't want him. And then, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the list. 10-1 is Ton Eckhart. So the bloke who's taking the interim job is sixth favourite to hold on to that position.
I don't think. And yeah, Matty McManus said Big Ange. I wish people would stop fucking talking about Postecoglou.
Also, who the hell wants Postecoglou?
The football style that he plays would absolutely butcher us in
If we
this
get
league.
Ten Hag, it might be time to retire. Absolutely. So anyway, Ton Eckhart 10-1, interesting. Alex Revel, I don't know who he is.
He's next player.
12-1. David Wagner 12-1. Gary O'Neill 14-1. Stephen Gerrard 14-1. I'm not against Gerrard. Genuinely.
I'm not against Stephen Gerrard, and he has managed. He's managed in England before, and he would get the respect of the players. The problem is here, and Jimmy Cheese is still in the chat now. He's made the point earlier. We need someone to come in who's going to steady the ship, because at the moment, the first and foremost, and people are saying, and people are saying, where do you think we're going to finish? And we'll get onto the super chat later. We cannot take a fucking punt on someone that doesn't know what they're doing.
But Sports Republic will. That's what they do. After Gerrard, you do have Carlos Corberan, or Corberan?
Corberan, yeah, he's going to leave Valencia to come here, isn't he?
I mean, you've then got Gareth Southgate, same odds. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, same odds. And interestingly, after this last weekend, Paul Heckingbottom, same odds. All 16-1.
There's so many names that aren't mentioned. People haven't mentioned Steve Cooper, who's obviously in at Bromby at the moment. I would have taken him in a heartbeat. Jamie's just said there, Mark Robbins is another one who no one's mentioned. And he's
on here at 21.
There's so many names. Now, we're told that the club apparently are looking at obviously Eckhart, or the favoured option is Frank Lampard.
So the club have said that. So apparently, people around the club have said the favourite for the leadership is Frank Lampard. So would be my choice. Would be my choice. Is he leaving top of the table Coventry to come to bottom of the table Saints?
If the money's right.
Is he? Is he leaving a team that's at the moment at least got a significantly higher chance of going to the Premier League than coming to Saints?
If the money's right.
I don't know if he is, Ash, because maybe there's a clause in his contract that says that when you get promoted to the Premier League, you get X. Who knows?
They might not get promoted to the Premier League.
They might not, but who's got more chance at the moment? So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't want Lampard. I would love Frank Lampard with what he's doing at Coventry right now. Do I see him leaving a team that's currently bouncing at the top for a team that's currently crashing at the bottom? I don't know. The money would have to be significantly different, surely.
Yeah, of course it would. Of course it would. 100%. It would have to be massive. It's just, there's so many behind-the-scenes scenarios that we're not sure of, and so many conversations that happen. I mean, you have to remember, it was 2 or 3 years ago that we saw Jesse Marsh was... Has he got odds? Jesse Marsh, has he got odds? Because he was pictured in Ocean Village at a hotel. And...
I'm going to be honest with you, these show notes have gone out the window. We have not followed this at all. Who, sorry? Jesse Marsh, 20-1. He's longer odds than Vita Pereira and Paul Trollope.
Vita Pereira, who got sacked by Wolves today, that'll be interesting.
He's shorter odds than Bruno Lage, Marco Rose, Rafa Benitez. Rafa
Benitez.
Roger Schmidt is 33-1. And then the bookies get really wild, right? Claude Puel, 50-1. And Matt Letizia, 100-1. Matt Letizia. Do you know what, right? I know he hasn't got his coaching badges, but having sat on that sofa and talked to Matt, right, about football and some of it off air, I'd take him as a coach, honestly. I would.
It won't happen.
No,
Anyway.
And I don't think it should happen, because what you don't want to do is you don't want a legend like Letitia to end up really soiling his name by saying that
Well, look at what Shearer did at Newcastle.
COVID jabs caused frogs to turn gay, or by being terrible in the championship, right? So I think that people like Letitia and clubs in general, this was the risk for people like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United, etc. People like Letitia, I don't think should manage the club, because you want to remain that positive. Do you know what I mean? Right?
Agreed.
I don't think you want to.
Agreed. And Jimmy just said it on the chat there. Where is Trollope? That's the interesting one.
So
he's still in the club.
Paul Trollope is 20-1, and he hasn't been relieved of duties.
And he's
still
Luton.
there.
He was at Luton last year when they got went down and down again.
Yeah, won't be Lallana either. Fans saying him, but he only has UEFA B and not ready. I don't think he is ready now. I think so. Lallana is. If Lallana was ready, right? Surely he takes over now instead of Eckhart.
Cameron, you coach? Do you fancy it?
Surely
we'll give you a pasty.
Surely, I mean, I wouldn't leave Cyprus right now for Saints. Let's be honest. So let us know what you think, chat. It's been interesting. I'm not reading that because the show notes are literally pointless.
That comment there. Now, I don't. Alex Crook obviously is fairly close to news around Southampton. Reappointing Russell Martin would be welcomed by senior Southampton players. Of course it would. They were fucking best mates. Ryan Fraser, Taylor Harbour-Bellis.
Yeah, it'd be welcomed by players, but it won't be. This is the thing, right? The club has got to. I think Spores, Parsons, who's a bell end, Solak. They have to think hard now. They will not be blind to social media. They will not be blind to the fans. They will have been very aware of the chants that happened yesterday. If you were unaware, chat, the chants yesterday were pretty damning for Sport Republic. Lots of Sport Republic, get out of our club. Lots of Will Still, your football is shit. Loud chants of you're not fit to wear the shirt. What I think is good, genuinely good, is that fans weren't pointing the finger just at Will Still yesterday. They pointed the finger at the players, the manager, and the ownership. And I think that's the right thing. I think it is currently a problem top to bottom. I think that if Solak and his board bring Russell Martin back into this club, he might get the players playing for him, granted. They will not have the support of the fans for the most part. And so at that point, the pressure on that manager and on the board stays on. And what the board want to do is take that pressure off of at least themselves.
Can I just...
So I think this is one of... So we talk about Sports Republic masterclasses. We talk about bringing in unknown managers and unknown players. I think at this point they have to really think about who they're bringing in. And I think they have to make... My personal opinion is they have to make a sensible managerial appointment here. My concern is...
They won't.
That's not what they'll do.
Just one name that we haven't mentioned, which has been mentioned in our Discord quite a lot, and I'm going to rubbish this right now, but Nigel Adkins is not going to come back and manage Southampton. He has failed in every job he's done since he's managed us. Got sacked by Tranmere this year, last year, to everyone. It's the perfect fairy tale. It's not going to happen. Put it to bed. Sorry.
Well, and the thing is, as Saints fans, fairy tales don't exist. They don't happen for us. We don't even get a fucking new manager bounce. So we're not going to get a fairy tale, are we? Let's be honest. We're one of the only clubs I've ever known who just doesn't get a new manager bounce. Look at the last 8 managers, I think it is. We don't get new manager bounce. It doesn't happen.
No.
It doesn't happen. We also have to be very realistic about, in our current position, who we're attracting. You know, so if you think about Steven Gerrard, for example, and I say this name on purpose because I would argue that for the most part, actually, he's mostly failed. Okay, he won in Scotland. It's a 2-horse race, right? Let's be honest. It's not hard.
Who are we talking about?
Steven Gerrard, right? However, someone like Gerrard, the reason why I think he's a conceivable choice for managerial role in Southampton is because he might look at the gig and go, well, it can't get much worse, surely. So if he can take Southampton from 20th position and finish them in 6th, that would be seen as a roaring success considering where we are now, without even having to get us promoted necessarily. That's a big green tick on his CV, right? Ultimately. Other people, Frank Lampard, who's currently flying with Coventry, I think that he looks at it and goes, why would I? That's a risk to my current career where I'm doing quite well. So you're right with what you say. Some of it's about money. Of course it is. And perhaps we're in a position where we can spend more than other clubs on managerial wages. That being said, I think we have to be realistic about who we are going to be able to attract. Some of those names that people are throwing around there, the lunatic that said Thomas Frank from Tottenham Hotspur to Saints.
No, I know, and you're right with it, Matt. You say about we got a new manager about against Huddersfield and Ralph took charge. Ralph's first game was a 1-0 defeat to Cardiff City, mate. we in his second game we then beat Arsenal 3-2, but we still lost his first game in charge. It's just what we do.
Yeah, Wrexham at home, Will Steele's first game. I mean, the thing is as well, Jamie, right? That's one of 2 victories this season so far. Is that right?
2 out of 13, yeah. Not including cup competitions.
If you'd have told me, and this is the thing, right? When people say, I don't think Will should have been sacked, I agree that he's a fall guy. I flat agree with that. But when people say he shouldn't be sacked, I've looked at this season, and I think if you, before the season started, said to me as a Saints fan, I was predicting us like challenging for the top 2 to 4. 13 games in, looking at the run of fixtures we've had as well. This is the other thing. Looking at the run of fixtures we've had, you just said 13 games in, you've won 2. I'd have been like, you're fucking drunk.
Well, let's. I'm intrigued in this. Is there anyone in chat who thinks Will Steele should still be in a job?
Yeah, that's actually
a
great question.
Don't be shy. We're not against anything like that. On 100%, this whole channel, the Discord, everything is about people sharing their opinions and us not shouting people down. An opinion is an opinion, that's fine. But is there anyone who thinks you should still be in a job?
What I was going to say as well is the game against Wrexham was a Will Steele non-masterclass. So that was we're losing, throw as many people on the pitch as we can who are attackers.
We got lucky.
A good free kick, and then a centre-back dug you out with a goal at the VAR post. And we all went, this is brilliant, this is amazing. It wasn't. The other game that we won was against Sheffield United, and arguably, if it wasn't for a Ross Stewart wonder goal, we wouldn't have won that one either.
Danny Roller's at Rangers now.
Danny Roller's just taken over Rangers after Russell Martin was relieved of his duties. I was 2 weeks ago, but after yesterday, no. Cameron, I'm with you 100%.
Well, I think Blackburn did it for me, to be fair.
No. Blackburn. So Blackburn.
That change at Blackburn did it for me.
I said that. I put that out on Twitter, right? Honestly, taking Leo Cienza off at Blackburn and putting Jack Stevens on was a sackable offence. His team threw him under the bus. I agree with that. I do actually, interestingly, Jimmy, why? Do you mean in charge of Saints? Yes, specifically in charge of Saints, Matt. Not saying he should still be in a job, but I really think the players have thrown him under the bus and they are more to blame. Agree? I agree. I do.
Yeah.
The problem is we're in a position with football where we can't change the whole squad right now.
Big Sam until the end of the season.
Changing managers should be like changing players, fixed points in the season. I agree, Eston. I think that managers become the scapegoats now because they're the thing that you can change during the season. And I don't think it was quite as bad when there was no such thing as transfer windows. I would like to think they had someone ready to go and take us forward. Okay.
Andrew says it's not all his fault, but his players were both getting / up for it, so he had to go. I agree with that.
I didn't want him in the first place, but I do think things will improve. However, make-up the team is poor, particularly up front. Should have kept Tall Paul as we would have helped the season. He's top scorer at the moment in his league.
I think he is top scorer. Everyone ignore Riley's was suggesting he's a West Ham fan, so he's not valid right now.
I think taking on a manager like Will Steele, your board should have expected more than 13 games for him to get going. If they weren't going to keep him in through these times, they should never appointed. Interesting.
Again, West Ham fan. No one cares.
You see, but I think the thing is, right, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I think on the one hand, I agree, managers 13 games isn't a lot of time to turn it around, but we're also a club like Southampton, and so don't worry about that. So it's just display settings being weird.
But we're also a team, though, that regardless of what's happened, and I get Riley's point, regardless of what he's saying, it should be more than 13 games.
The recording stopped.
What does that mean?
It means I've run out of storage space for the recording, so the podcast isn't going to go up on the podcast app this week.
Sorry, guys.
Tough. Watch it on YouTube.
But I get what Riley's saying to a degree, but Riley, you haven't seen the football, mate. There's been no football. It's been awful.
Liam was full of hope and joy being OF. The season, what they've done to... Yeah, the thing is, Gasty, right? And I think many Saints fans were similar. I had a season ticket last season to the Premier League. I went to numerous away games. I drove to Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea, Man United on a Thursday night, etc. And it was shit. And we travelled all over the country as fans and sold out every away end in a season where we were one of the most embarrassing Premier League teams of all time, right? And I know everyone goes, we beat Derby's record. We were still awful. We were so bad.
But make no mistake. Firstly, obviously, if you want the names, Osmo Clan, what's your take on Russell Martin being back? No, I'm not
interested at all.
Jamie says the club is still toxic even after tonight. That's the point.
That's the problem.
This isn't going to solve everything.
So after last season, Gasty, I was like, surely it can't get worse. And actually, conversations I had with a few people was I said, I'm really looking forward to the Championship because at least we should compete in every game. That isn't me saying we should win every game. We should be able to compete in every game. Unfortunately, I don't think we've competed in almost every game we've played.
We were second best yesterday, and Preston weren't even great. They came to it. They had a game plan. I'm not sure if there will be any Preston fans that are watching. I thought they were solid. They looked great. Harrison Armstrong in midfield was absolutely superb. They had 3 or 4 chances. They scored 2 goals. They came in. They scored a goal. They sat on it. They scored one on the break. They got out.
I'm going to be slightly controversial. I don't think Preston looked all that great.
That's my point. And they were just solid.
Yeah, this is my issue. I'm watching teams like Preston and teams like Blackburn, and I don't want to take anything away from the fans of those clubs. They don't look special. They don't look impressive. Do you know what they're doing? They're fucking basics.
But we did it again. We lost to Blackburn, who've been shit all year, and then they went and beat Leicester yesterday. What the fuck is going on?
I think at this point, if I'm honest with you, talking about Will Still, whether we should have kept him or not, right? I think that whoever comes in, I think the club has probably at this stage got to accept the fact that promotion at the end of this season would be too soon for us. Honestly, I think it would be bad.
Agreed.
I think that whoever they bring in now, there needs to be, in my opinion, much better transparency and communication from board level to the club, to the fans. And I think that they need to actually grow a set of bollocks and stand in front of the fans and say, we fucked this up, because they have. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in this person. He's going to steady the ship this season and hopefully keep us in the Championship. We'll push next season for promotion, and we're going to work hard during the transfer windows. I think if they are, as a club, we're still fighting for promotion this season. At the moment, I'm struggling to take Sports Republic seriously. Well, I don't take Sports Republic seriously.
Alison just said there, even when the team was warming up, you could see they couldn't be asked. My son went yesterday, as you know, because you were there, and even he was stood there watching and saying, a 9-year-old, why aren't they running? Why isn't he chasing it? What's he doing? And that, to me, the game was summed up. And we're way past going through the game now. But the game was summed up by that situation where Mad Rorslev got the ball, it gets passed into him. He's on the corner of sort of like 16 yards, goal at his mercy. Jay Robinson on the edge of the box, ready to pass, and instead he just decided to try and float across to the back post.
A little shitty dink ball.
Yeah, and that to me epitomised everything. And even then, and you were watching him, Will still just stood there and sort of was like, we're the new Watford.
We are. Well, yeah.
We're becoming we're a laughing stock. We were the laughing stock of the Premier League. We're now the laughing stock of the Football League.
The most recent comment, in the last 18 months, we've had as many managers as league wins. That's on Sport Republic. It is. Sport Republic are embarrassing at the moment. And this is why I think that what happens next is incredibly important. If they take a punt on a random unknown manager, that I think Sports Republic will be out by the end of the season. I think if they bring in someone solid and known, they might stand a chance. Maybe.
The only way they can shut it up is by winning games of football.
To be honest with you, I actually believe at the moment in my heart that they're going to struggle to ever shut it up now. I think that the damage that's been done over the last 5 years is irreparable. When I say irreparable, I don't mean that we can't be back in the Premier League and competing again, because we can. Look at what's happening at the moment with people like Sunderland in the Premier League, right? It's absolutely possible. We made ourselves feel better last season by going, all 3 teams that got promoted have gone back down, and the year before, all 3 teams got promoted went back down. And then Sunderland this season have gone, hold my beer, right? And they're showing that it can be done. So when I say irreparable, I don't mean that we can't get back to that level. We absolutely can. I now am at a point where I think Sports Republic's reputation with the fan base is irreparable. The only way, let's face it, the only way anyone's going to forget about these last 5 years and where we are is if in the next 5 years we're competing at the top of the Premier League. That's a level of achievement you're going to have to undo what's happened so far. And we're never doing that.
So they would need to bring someone in and we would need to go on the run of a lifetime, being somewhere near it this year. And the next manager, and we thought Will Still was going to be it, but actually he was tactically inept. He was out of his depth. Someone needs to come in and we're talking about it again, but they need to galvanise the fan base. But Russell Martin obviously had a half-decent championship year, and it's talked good, and everyone's
you don't need to galvanise our fucking fan base. You're talking about fans who sold out every single away game in that Premier League season. You're talking about fans that 1-0 down against Preston yesterday at half-time got behind the team again. You don't need to galvanise the fan base. You don't need to. You just need players to give a fuck so those fans keep going.
And that was epitomised yesterday by I can't say his flipping name. I'm going to butcher it, and I know he's one of our players, and I shouldn't butcher it, by Nick Oyakunle coming on. There you go, I tried it. And he gave more effort in 6 minutes than half the players did in an entire game. More effort. He was running, he was chasing, he was trying to create something, he was doing everything, and I'm going to say this now, and we got shouted at 10 before. Sometimes you don't mind losing a game when the team have done everything. You don't mind getting a 0-0 draw against Swansea when they've done everything.
Is that bottom comment?
Yeah, I just want some fucking effort.
Just show us effort.
And the thing is the players will come out and they'll do their press. We're not going to get one of them sat on this sofa where they can sit. We're not going to get Jack Stevens sat here and say, right, why have you guys been shit this year? What's going on? And he sits there and he'll be like, oh, well,
Well, I get very frustrated with the club in general. I was pushing recently to be let into the press conferences, and I've essentially been told that you need to have a certain thing to allow you to do it, because you've got to have some sort of journalistic qualification or something. And then even then, when you've got that, they might not let you in. They'll pick and choose who they let in. Of course they will. It's frustrating. There was another super chat. Did you read it out? It was from Mr. Jimmy, I think. And then we'll say goodbye after we've talked about the next couple of games. He said, I will raise your 199 and give you 2. Pulis type. Pulis type is, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, he's... No, Steve Cooper is not available, Nick, I'm afraid. He is currently in charge at Bromby. The long throw is making a comeback, so Tony Pulis.
Alison says, I feel sorry for the next manager coming in for what he's got to play with. The thing is, Alex, I agree with you to a point. I don't agree with you, and I'll explain, right? Because I don't like to just shoot people down in the chat when they bring up a point. I feel sorry for him for one reason. I don't feel sorry for him for the other. So in terms of the ability of the players he has, all proven at this level, right? The ability of that squad on their day is very, very good, and the club should be competing higher up. I do feel sorry because their attitude fucking stinks. It's disgusting. As professional players, most of which will be paid more in a week than most of us earn in a year, right? Their attitude is disgusting. It's vile. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. And that's where I do feel sorry for whoever comes in. And that's why I think you need a character to come in. You need someone to come in who will be like, enough of your fucking shit. And if you're not playing well, you're dropped. And I sort of thought Will did that when he dropped Stevens and Taylor Howard-Bellis. I thought, oh, he's prepared to drop people. But he just he wasn't making good choices in formation. He wasn't making good choices in lineup. If you're dropping Stevens and Taylor Howard-Bellis, I was like, well, then you come away from 5 at the back. He didn't. So, hey-ho, right. Next is a Wednesday game against not Crystal Palace, Queen's Park Rangers. And then after that's a Saturday game against Wednesday, which isn't Crystal Palace or Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah.
So, right, we have got the under-21s coach in place for...
The under-21s who had a draw with Real Madrid in the week.
Yeah. So, Queen's Park Rangers, Wednesday,
yes.
Away, Loftus Road.
Yes.
Hard place to go to.
They've just been battered at home 4-1.
Still a hard place to go to.
Yep.
Especially when we're now directionless, essentially.
Yep.
What are we saying?
What else can we say? QPR, they're sort of sit mid-table. I think they're 13th. They've got a new manager in charge. Julian Stevens, something like that. I can't remember what it is. They're a decent enough school team. The problem is every team at the moment this year has shown more than what we can. They've got strikers that can hold the ball up. They've got big men that will bully our big men. I can't see any other option. I cannot see any result after watching the last 3 games at the moment in the QPR win.
I'm going to say something very controversial.
Drum roll. Go on.
I want us to lose.
Okay. I don't think that's controversial.
And the reason why it's controversial because I'm saying I want my own team to lose. The reason why I want us to lose is because I don't want to see Mr. the Under-21s coach, whose name I've already forgotten, Tonda. I don't want to see them go, well, we've won 2 games since he's been in charge. That's the same that Will Still did. Well, give him the job.
It depends, doesn't it? Because he might stick up the team on Wednesday night. He might throw 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 or whatever, and suddenly the players play for him because they like him, and we win 2-1, 3-1, and coming away with a dog-fought victory. And then he goes in against Sheffield Wednesday, and we throw in another couple of another victory, and suddenly he's had 6 points from 6. And then there's a conversation that needs to be had. But at the moment, it's all around everyone would say the same thing. And every football club said the same thing when in position. We need someone who's proven to come in and help steady the ship. And sometimes you bring in people like a Ralph Hassenhüttl who comes in and sticks around for 3 years and go, yeah, they were decent. And sometimes you bring in people like Will Steele and go, that was a stupid decision, wasn't it?
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I don't think I want him to be. I don't want them to take the cheap option because he's got a couple of wins. I don't want that. Thank you, Garcy, for the $2. He says Coventry lost and then gifted a single membership. Chat, honestly, becoming a member of the channel, there's 200 people watching. Becoming a member of the channel really helps us. If you watched last season during the Premier League season, we did pay considerable amounts of money to have Matt Letizia come and do the show. I'd like to do something like that again in the future, but we're currently running this show at quite the loss at the moment. So if you want to support us, if you want us to bring people like Matt in again, the best way to do that is by becoming a member. For $4.99 a month, you get a little bit extra access in Discord. We'll run another members competition for Christmas at some point soon. But more importantly, it's just £5 a month. It just keeps coming out. And then eventually Ash and I can all have Ferraris. I actually don't want a Ferrari. After Wednesday, where we're playing Queen's Park Rangers, we're playing Wednesday on Saturday.
Imagine the atmosphere at St Mary's if we do lose at QPR.
Well, it depends on whether they do what you want and bring the new manager in for that game on Wednesday at Saturday.
I
Wednesday on Saturday.
Assume that with the way with the way they've gone about the time they took to appoint Ivan Juric, the time they took to appoint Will Steele to a degree, because they gave that a lot of time. I personally cannot see them appointing a manager.
I think the timing of Will was on purpose and was done well, because they waited till the season finished and brought him in pretty soon after. So I don't think they fucked about with Will. I think they did that on purpose. The deal would have been agreed before the end of the season. It was obviously because they had him in for the last game of the season. That was done on purpose. That timing was on purpose.
No, I get that.
The amount of time they took to appoint Ivan Juric, I agree with. Will Steele appointment was done on purpose.
But then again, they dilly-daddled over Russell Martin before. Nathan Jones still took a little bit of time, and obviously I don't want to mention him, but he still took a little bit of time. I can't see them making that change. I think that Tonda Eckhart will still be in charge when we play Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday. I'd like to think that we'll potentially see something from the game on Wednesday. I know you're not going to be able to watch a lot of it because you're working. I'll be sat at home watching it. I'm not going because kids and work and the like. That's what memberships help, guys. It gets me out of work so I can actually go and watch every game.
Cameron says, Spurs has no idea who we will get. Too busy checking out villas in Italy, probably.
I mean, he's not wrong, is he? I just think that...
Osmo says, I think we should have left Wilson, or we could have left Wilson in charge until the international break.
I think damage was done.
The second those chants started on Saturday about the board, they were going to take action immediately. Because the will point at that point is irrelevant. They want to protect their own skins. They want to save their own asses. I'll be honest with you, and Ash will own up this as well. We walked out of that stadium and I said they're going to sack him, and he said I'd be surprised. But I was like, the second that toxicity started that loud towards the board, they want to protect themselves. Sacking Will is more about protecting themselves than anything else.
Of course it is.
Without doubt. That's the shower of shit we've got in charge of the club right now. So, cool.
I just don't, like I said, I don't think we're going to get a performance on Wednesday. I'll be very surprised. And I think that the atmosphere will be very, very, very toxic. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get nothing against QPR, and I don't want us to. And I think that Wednesday will be interesting, as in on Saturday will be interesting, depending on what we've done with the manager. Maybe we could get some points against them, but only because, sorry, Nick, they've been in a dire situation themselves. more
draw at the
than
weekend, though.
Yeah, and that's to put them on -7 points,
-5.
But that's the other thing as well. -5, sorry. That's the other thing as well. We're going into Wednesday at a point where they've managed to affect change in their club, and they're now fighting like fuck for their own survival. So it's not a great time to play them. Let's be honest. Even at St Mary's, it's just not a great time to play them. So he's been sacked 2 days before new football manager. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing because last year it didn't come out. He's got it on pre-order, hasn't he? That's what it is. That's what it is.
2 days before new football manager. Yeah, he's ready for it. That's what he's going to be doing.
Right. Anyway, you guys have been amazing. We haven't really followed the show notes, and I apologise for the amount of language again. I'm not actually all that sorry. I just feel like I should. I started off strong, and it was not a lot of foul language, but
sorry, Aaron.
Sorry, Aaron. Sorry.
Put the mute button on.
I then got passionate again and so worked up. If you normally, we'll put this out on Twitter as well. If you normally listen to our podcast on the podcast apps, I'm sorry, it ran out of memory halfway through, and I can't put it out, but it just cuts us off. It's just not possible to do that. I'll fix this for next week. I'll make sure we've got enough storage space in the future. And then we'll say sorry at the start of next week as well, so the people that missed it will know.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
It doesn't make any fucking money anyway, so who cares? Garcy, thank you for $2, Garcy. Also, well done, Ash, for not jinxing West Ham today.
The curse has been lifted.
They won today, didn't they?
Yeah, but every time I say something, it normally goes the other way. So when obviously Garcy will know being the Wrexham man, when they were 3-1 up on Friday, I said, Wrexham are going to beat Coventry, and then Coventry literally scored the next minute, and I was like, oh, shit.
Still beat them, didn't they?
Eventually. But I said it about West Ham today because I wanted Newcastle to equalise, but they didn't. So
if you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash that subscribe button for us. Over 220 people watch this show tonight. I'd love that to be a weekly thing. It's a shame that we only get that when it's bad news. But we will be here weekly talking about football for the most part. Every now and again, we miss a show because real life gets in the way and this isn't our paid job. But normally we're here every single Sunday at 8 p.m. After typically being to the game or at least watching the game ourselves. Thank you so much, you wonderful humans, anyway, for hanging out with us. If you haven't yet, smash that like button. We've got 180 people still in the chat, only 62 likes on YouTube. That shit's free and really helps the algorithm. So thank you so much. I think that covers it. I think lost to QPR. Not sure about Sheffield Wednesday. I'd take a draw at the moment.
Very interested to see how he'll set up.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of a Carrick. Although I'm aware he was sacked by Middlesbrough. I think I like the idea of a Carrick. So hey. Let's hope someone comes in and starts to put these fucking players in their place. And let's hope that Sports Republic, for once in their life, don't make the cheap choice on the footballing side. Let's hope.
I don't think they made a cheap choice for Will Still. I think they made the wrong choice.
I don't think I'm even going to ask you to do the thing. I mean, Ian's done the thing. Did you want to do the thing?
I always say up the Saints. Ian said it. There you go. He's done it for me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Up the Saints.
Up the Saints.
Come on, everyone. Have a good evening.
we really need some positive up the Saints. So all of you at home watching right now, I don't care if your wives are in bed, shout up the Saints.
Up the Saints.